Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is the eSports Report presented by Xbox One, official console of MLG. Puckett here at the desk. We're joined by the lovely JP, dressed as Mr. X, and Mr. Max Malo. How you guys doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, JP. How you doing? You liking Mr. Matt Morel's clothes?
Yeah, too much COD though this weekend. I can do that.
You had a lot of COD this weekend.
Too much.
A lot. JP, of course, was in charge of watching all of the games this weekend and taking notes, not only for us, but also COD stats team. A lot of stats coming out of this week, and we'll be going through some today. Today on the show, we're really just going to focus on our top 8 squads, and we should start at the very top. At number 8 came in Isolation Esports. Now, I put it in my top 8. Max, did you have ISO in your top 8 coming in?
No, I did not, mainly for the fact that, as you see on the screen right there, the roster that competed at the UMG Dallas was playing with the sub. GodRx was filling in for Llama God, and I had them pretty much bombing out in pool play, not finishing too well, but they kind of surprised everyone. I mean, not for you and Maven, you all had ISO in your top 8, but props to the squad playing with a sub, able to finish top 8. You know, they look kind of shaky in Season 3 so far, but I mean, JP, what'd you see of the Isolation squad?
Yeah, I mean, we saw a really good Season 3 relegation tournament from them. We didn't expect too much because of their placings previously. We saw in a lot of online tournaments they did well. We go into the Pro League, they're doing not too good, so we didn't really...
Not too
just
good.
Just to put it nicely, but they really shocked a lot of people placing top 8 in this tournament.
Isolation had some big plays, just like relegation. Havoc, a 1v4 round 11 against Optic Gaming, one of the highlights. But before that, they started off in pool play. Let's take a little bit of a look at their run throughout this tournament. Of course, GodRx filling in for Llama God, and yet they're still able to 3-1 TK. They go Game 5, but are able to clutch up and search and destroy against VVV. And then they 3-0 G4G, the team that beat Denial, before losing to the top squad in their pool. So pretty solid performance by Isolation. They finished 3-1, but of course that loss to Denial lost them the tiebreaker for the #1 spot. Good enough, though, to get into the champ bracket, Max.
Yep, and then their first winners round, they go up against the Red Militia, and I mean, honestly, they really didn't stand a chance against them. They lose 3-1 there, only taking the uplink. They go into losers bracket. They're able to beat Rise. They take them to a Game 5, but then they meet up with OG in the round right after that, and then they get crushed 3-1 as well.
Well, how many games did FaZe lose in the entire tournament?
2. One was to Isolation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're saying they got blown out. This is kind of a statement here. You're able to take a game from FaZe, who dominated their way through. The Rise game, though, I was really surprised that went all the way to game number 5. Do you think that was just a little showing of Isolation's weakness, JP, or do you think that this was showing that Rise has potential?
I think it was just showing a little bit of their weakness. They just previously had been knocked down to the loser bracket by FaZe, so that it kind of gives you like a low morale going into that game. But they are able to get that Game 5 win. Unfortunately, after that, they have to play Optic Gaming, one of the best teams in the world, and they get a 3-1 loss to them. I mean,
you look at your exits. You lost to the top 3 in the tournament, right? Optic Gaming number 2, FaZe number 1, and Denial in pool play.
And they were able to take a map out of all of them. So that's saying something. I mean, you're not getting swept 3-0 by those top teams, so you're hanging with them at least in one game. It's just unfortunate that they were able to get those losses because they looked pretty good throughout the whole tournament.
I was pretty impressed by Isolation, but I think Havoc was definitely their key player. Let's take a look at the individual numbers here for our Isolation players. GodRx, who is filling in this weekend for Llama God, against Denial, really struggled, 0.79. Against FaZe, a 0.86, but against Optic Gaming, really got shut down, not even a 0.7 there. On the opposite side, it seemed that Havoc really performed well against Optic Gaming. I mean, he didn't go above a 1.0, but he was definitely holding his own against Denial and OG.
Yeah, you could say that not many people hold a positive KD against Optic Gaming at all. I mean, Hook is one of those guys that can do it at the X Games, but most of the time you're getting those negative KDs because you're just getting outslayed heavily by Optic Gaming. But for GodRx, I mean, those stats, they don't look too good, probably because of the new pickup, and they were just playing with him maybe for 1 or 2 weeks. So there could be some role ambiguity stuff there. And it's basically a new squad compared to what they've been doing in the Pro League and what they did at S3 relegation.
I was pretty impressed with Havoc throughout the weekend. Max, when you were watching ISO, was there any other player that you thought was playing well, and what's really the potential of this squad?
I mean, looking at the potential of the squad going into Season 3, at least continuing with Season 3, I think Dito really stepped up into that captainship type role, really leading these new players that have come onto the scene. Havoc, absolute beast like we saw. I mean, that 1v4 against OG was absolutely nuts on Riot S&D. Silly has proved at Season 3 relegation, he's an absolute beast in hardpoint. And then, maybe if they were playing with Llama God, they could have placed maybe top 5, top 6. They were, 1 round short, but, they had a tough matchup against OG. On the other side, if they would have ended up playing TCM, I believe, they might have been able to pull that one off and secure a higher placing. But going into Season 3, I think this team is definitely top 8. We see them at Season 3 playoffs for sure. And I just really want to see this team, on land against full competition going forward.
Uplink was one of the game types that they struggled in, and we have a video here, guys. This is a look at Isolation in their matchup. It's from Losers Round 5 against Optic Gaming. Really, ISO, despite Havoc kind of slaying and keeping up, the team as a whole got blown out by Optic Gaming.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said before, Puckett, they were able to take an uplink off the team that won the entire tournament phase, who only dropped 2 maps. But then going into this uplink against OG, this is like moments after Havoc clutches one of the nastiest 1v4s we've ever seen. They get absolutely blown out, JP. Like, these stats were absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, Scump ends up going 30-11 in a 6-minute game. That's just ridiculous. That you could have dropped a 50 bomb in an uplink, which is unheard of because I think the record's maybe 45 in regulation. Dropping a 50 is crazy, and I think this was just the fuel in the fire that was just being released after they got 1v4'd in round 11 by Havoc. So there was nothing really you could do about this. Optic Gaming just powerhouse, and they were just completely dominating.
Yeah, you saw at the start, really, Silly, 5 and 6 was the best you could speak of. Excuse me, Dito, 5 and 6, best stats you could speak of against this Optic Gaming squad. On the other side, Formal really caught fire in this one. 9 and 5 to start. He was double positive. But it was really not just the kills. You look at the numbers, 8-0. Look at the mini-map. There was so little pressure on the satellite. Crim 6 seemed that he just had free reign of the map.
Yeah, it seemed really easy just continuing on relaying those points in, and look at that 2-point dunk, or almost a 2-point dunk, and it was just really easy to clear the ISO base, and Optic was just, as we were saying, completely dominating this map.
So you have it getting it all the way to the opponent's base, then having to toss it out. Isolation, though, as a whole, I think this is a squad that is still figuring out how exactly they want to play with their 4-man roster. GodRx, of course, filling in for now throughout UMG, but we're going to see Llama God return back to the team for the rest of the season, Max, and I think that's really going to be a good week for them, potentially, to catch up on the leaderboard.
Oh, definitely. I mean, they've had some tough matchups. They were able to take a hard point off of OG, which is very tough in general online. They fell in that series, though. But, I mean, do you have them in your top 8, Puckett, looking ahead to Season 3 playoffs?
I think I do. I think Isolation is going to grab either the 7th or 8th spot. I see them right now kind of on par with Optic Nation, just despite Optic Nation with a 3-1 record. I think ISO, if they had those same matchups, could definitely have the same outcome. I think they're going to squeeze through. Not a bottom 4 team, and it's really not because they're great slayers by any means. It's just they have phenomenal teamwork, and they're able to get the job done while being outslayed. Very few teams can do that.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing Optic Gaming, they're able to take off a map. They're playing Denial, they're able to take off a map. Play FaZe, they're able to take off a map. I mean, this was a pickup squad going into UMG Dallas. Not many pickup teams can take a map off those top 3 teams, and once the full squad comes back, I could see them for sure placing top 8 in the Season 3 playoffs.
They're the only team coming into this that is not playing with an original starter, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. Out of, Pro League teams? Yeah.
Well, you look at VVV, and they've mixed up their roster, but had several weeks coming in. Everyone else in your top 8 coming in with a starting lineup that they've been playing with for multiple months. Very impressive stuff for ISO. GodRx, we showed you his stats overall. Didn't have the best numbers. I think really it was the hard point totals that kind of came back to hurt him. But you see, Isolation, if they have a weakness, Originally, we thought it might be Search and Destroy or Uplink. I think it's still Uplink. You saw it here at UMG, and really the Pro League stats are pointing that direction. I think we really need to see them step that part of their game going forward.
Yeah, I mean, they're right now 1-3 in Uplink in the Pro League, and that only win was versus Orbit, which isn't the strongest of teams in the Pro League.
Not at all.
No one has a positive KD in Uplink on that team. I mean, if there is one game mode that they really need to improve in, it is Uplink. Even though they were able to take one off of FaZe, that is definitely their game mode that they need to watch out for.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Simply the fact that you have players like Silly and Havoc and Dito who are just, in-your-face slayers. They'll drop massive numbers. They're objective-minded enough to get in hardpoint hills, and that's like, and we even saw at relegation they were winning hardpoints that they were being outslayed in, like against Prophecy. Aqua and Octane drop like combined 90+ kills, and they're still able to win hardpoints. In S&D, they have that clutch factor, like we saw at this event. Havoc, that 1v4, can't talk about it enough. But Uplink is, one of the most game modes, arguably the game mode that you need the most amount of teamwork in. And I think as the season goes on, for Season 3, we'll see them improve a bit. But really, if they want to make a push for top 4 in the league and even, top 4 at playoffs, they're really going to need to improve in this game mode, Puckett.
I definitely agree with all of that, guys. Isolation, though, still a top 8 squad. I think we'll be seeing a lot more from them. Now, I want to give a big shout-out to the Reddit squad. Everyone that has been contributing to the Call of Duty competitive Reddit. It's been blowing up over the last year and a half. If we can, Chandler, I would love to throw it to my screen and show you that 1v4. It would be an injustice to this ISO squad if we didn't show this video. This is Havoc in the 1v4 against Optic Gaming, round 11, Riot Search and Destroy.
Isolation. I don't know if they can do this without Dito. Now it's a 1 versus 4.
Goodness.
Havoc has to clutch up and go huge against Optic Gaming here on the main stage.
Havoc gets
player
one.
just above him and right behind him.
Havoc gets
Havoc's
two.
gonna get 2. Just 2 players remain. Formal with the bomb in hand, and Karma looking to bait him out.
Havoc in a 1-on-2. The bomb still has to be planted. 35 seconds remaining. The last time Isolation clutched up in round 11. He's beginning to move towards the A site. Spots Formal, not able to connect with the shots. He's weak. He gets away alive. 5-5. Both players of Optic Gaming deciding to stay together.
Formal.
The bomb was planted.
Formal's 1 kill away from getting that ace. Havoc has to do the impossible right now with Formal in position and Karma protecting him. He's not going to be able to get this bomb without them seeing it.
Gets the shots down on Karma. It's a 1v1. Havoc versus Formal. Both players, the last remaining. Who's going to get the ace for their team? Havoc beginning to check this police building. He rotates around. Spots Formal. He takes him out.
Havoc,
oh my God.
out.
Havoc, you absolute savage. He's got to get the defuse. He's on the bomb.
Has to have enough time.
He's going to get it in time. Havoc, just what happened?
This was such a ridiculous moment. You saw Silly just holding his head, had no idea what to say, what to do. The best part, Havoc there with the clutch gives him the win, but he just finishes 12-7. Dito was 15-7 and was risking losing that game against OG. It's not just one star player. We've seen Silly with big plays. You saw Lamagod with the clutch against Prophecy to win their round 11 back at relegation. Now it was Havoc's turn once again, and I think this squad, their search and destroy game is really what's going to make them dangerous later on throughout Pro League.
Yeah, for sure. And really, I think that really starts with Dito being the captain of the team, really, enforcing, how to play S&D correctly, and the fact that he trusts these players who can clutch up in these insane moments. Like a round 11 against Optic Gaming is not something you can just like, oh, okay, I'm just going to go do this real quick. But, and especially against Formal, who was looking for the ace himself. So one of the craziest plays all tournament long.
I mean, Havoc is a great S&D player. I saw multiple players on Twitter tweeting about how good Havoc is in Search and Destroy, not just at this tournament, but in the Pro League as well. And he had a great S3 relegation in S&D. I believe he led his team in KD as well. So he's just that type of player that, like, if you want a 1v4 on Isolation, it's going to be him getting that 1v4.
You're throwing Havoc in there. All right, guys, that is our first team. When we come back, we'll be talking about our 7th place finisher, VVV. Made a ridiculous run after a terrible start in pool play. We'll talk all about that, as well as bring you the top 5 from pool play. We had some incredible plays from a number of teams. We'll be back with that in just a few.